Seriously Read a Book. My name is John, and my daughter Rose is joining us today. Want to say hi, Rose?
Hi.
And today we are going to be reading part 2 of Dr. Nicholas is Ridiculous. I am also a little sick today, so I may sound a little different. But one of the wonderful things about being sick is that you can even read when you're sick. Isn't that cool? So, that's what I'm doing. We took sort of the day off today, didn't we, Rose?
Yeah.
We had some plans, but I'm sick and Rose was sick earlier today. You ever get sick? Yeah, it can be a bummer, right? So, whenever it's a bummer kind of day, we like to read books that are funny.
Like this one.
Like this one. So we are going to start with Chapter 7 of Dr. Nicholas is Ridiculous, and we're going to read all the way to the end. Here we go. You ready?
Yes.
All right, you ready? Here we go. Chapter 7, The Truth About Dr. Nicholas. We have lunch in the vomitorium. It used to be called the cafetorium until some kid threw up in there last year. It was gross. I sat with the guys and Alexia. Then Andrea and Emily came over and we had to squeeze together to make room for them. Michael had a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. Alexia had a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. Neil the nude kid had a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. Just about everybody had a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. Everybody except me. I had a piece of cake. I held it up for everybody to see. Now this is a piece of cake, I told them. See, look, it's a picture here of AJ holding up the piece of cake and all of his friends smiling and eating their peanut butter and jelly sandwiches while he is giving a little speech about cake. Naturally, we all started talking about Dr. Nicholas and how weird she was. If she's a real doctor, I said, she should cure sick people. That's what doctors do. Maybe she cured sick people in history, said Neil. She's the weirdest history teacher in history, Ryan said. Yeah, Michael said. I bet nobody else teaches the history of toilet bowls and Barbie dolls. Maybe she's not a real history teacher at all, I said. Did you ever think about that? What do you mean, AJ? Asked Alexia. Well, maybe Dr. Nicholas kidnapped our real history teacher, I said. Old ladies don't kidnap people, Neil said. Old ladies don't jump rope either, I told him. Dr. Nicholas probably kidnapped our real history teacher and sent her back in time with a time machine. Stop trying to scare Emily, said Andrea. I'm scared, said Emily.
She's probably not even scared.
Oh, you think she just likes saying she's scared? It's possible. Do y'all think that Emily's really scared? All right, here we go. Yeah, right now, our real history teacher is probably being tortured in a castle during the 13th century. Stuff like that happens all the time, you know. We've got to do something, shouted Emily, and then she went running out of the vomitorium. I slapped my head. Sheesh, get a grip. That girl will fall for anything. After Emily left, Andrea was sitting there with her worried face on. What's the matter with you? I asked. Did you lose your encyclopedia? No, I'm worried about our school, Andrea told me. In just 2 days, we have to take that test again. Mr. Klutz said the school will close if we don't do better, but we're not going to do very well if we only learn about the history of toilet bowls and Barbie dolls. I realized Andrea was right for once in her life. Learning about the history of toilet bowls and Barbie dolls was cool, but it wouldn't help us on the test. And if we failed again, elementary school would be shut down forever. Then we'd have to go to Dirk School, which is a school for dorks on the other side of town. What are we going to do? Asked Alexia. Beats me, said Neil the nude kid. Neil looked at me. I looked at Ryan. Ryan looked at Michael. Michael looked at Andrea. Andrea looked at Neil. Everybody was looking at each other. We were in trouble.
Dun, dun, dun.
Dun, dun, dun. Chapter 8, The Study Buddies. We should form a study group. I couldn't believe those words actually came out of my mouth. But it made sense. We all knew what was going to be We all knew what was going to be on the test. If we learned the answers together, we'd get them all right, we could save our school. "Let's have the study group in my house after school this afternoon," said Andrea. "We can call ourselves the Study Buddies." Ugh. One time, I had to put on a jacket and tie and go to Andrea's house for her birthday party. I was so bored that I started throwing snails into the garbage can and I hit Emily in the head with one. But I agreed to go over to Andrea's house again to save our school. "Mom," I said when I got home, "can you drive me over to Andrea's house?"
What?
My mother shouted.
You always say you don't like Andrea. Why do you want to go over to her house?
"We're having a study group."
What?
My mother rushed over and put her hand on my forehead. Moms are always putting their hands on your forehead. Nobody knows why.
Are you feeling okay, AJ? You always say you hate studying. Maybe you're coming down with something. You need to rest in bed.
"No," I told her. "I need to get to Andrea's house right away. It's very important." My mom drove me over to Andrea's house. "Hi, Arlo," Andrea said when she opened the door. "You're the first one here. Come on in. Let's go to my room." My mom went to the kitchen to make chit-chat with Andrea's mom. Andrea took me upstairs to her room. It was the weirdest place in the history of the world. There were books and encyclopedias and Barbies and all kinds of pink stuff everywhere. I thought I was gonna die. Luckily, what's that?
You always
He always says that.
say
Thought I was gonna die. Luckily, the doorbell rang. It was Ryan and Michael. Andrea and I ran downstairs to let them in. "Ooh," Ryan said. "AJ got to Andrea's house first. They must be in love." "When are you two study buddies gonna get married?" asked Michael. If those guys weren't my best friends, I would hate them. Soon the others showed up and we went to Andrea's basement. And you'll never believe in a million hundred years what was down there. A classroom. There was a big whiteboard on the wall and desks, encyclopedias, posters, and a computer. There was even a flag so Andrea could pledge the allegiance at home. Who has a classroom in their basement? What is Andrea's problem? We all took seats. Andrea went up to the whiteboard and wrote, "History is fun," on it. "I'd like to call this meeting of the Study Buddies to order," she said. "Who can tell me the name of the first president?" "Wait a minute," I shouted. "You're not a teacher." "But I know all the answers for the test, Arlo," Andrea said. "Do you?" "Sure I do," I told her. "Oh yeah?" Andrea said. "Who was the first president?" "Pfft, Abraham Lincoln," I said. "So na boo boo on you." Everybody laughed, even though I didn't say anything funny. "It was George Washington, dumbhead," Neil whispered to me. "I knew that," I lied. "Bummer in the summer. I wanted to go to Antarctica and live with the penguins." We went over all the questions that were on the test, and I found out that I got a few of them wrong the first time. I learned that we fought England in the Revolutionary War, not the Galactic Empire. I learned that if the president dies, the vice president becomes president, not Chuck Norris. I learned that Thomas Edison invented the light bulb, not Bob Lightbulb. After 1,100,000 hours of studying, you'll never believe who poked her head into the basement door. Nobody. If you poked your head into a door, it would hurt. But you'll never believe who poked her head into the doorway. It was Andrea's mom. She looks just like Andrea, but with wrinkles. She was with my mom, and they had a big plate full of chocolate chip cookies. "You kids are working very hard," Andrea's mom told us. "You could be home playing video games and having fun, but you are learning about history."
I'm so proud of you,
said my mom. She was just about to cry, so I was allowed to eat 5 cookies. Soon the other parents showed up to take everybody home. We all learned all kinds of history stuff that we didn't know before. I was ready to kick butt on the big test. Grown-ups get mad when you say but. Nobody knows why. What's the word you're not supposed to say, Rose?
But.
Exactly. Chapter 9, The Time Boat. When we got to school the next morning, there was a sign on our classroom door. "Go to the science room." That was weird. We went to the science room, which is all the way at the other end of the school. But you'll never guess in a million hundred guesses what was in the middle of the science room. Wrong. It was a boat.
What?
A giant rowboat was in the middle of the room. It was the weirdest thing in the history of the world. Mrs. Yonkers, our computer teacher, was in the science room too, along with Mr. Docker and Dr. Nicholas. Where did you get a boat?
From Rent a Boat,
Said Dr. Nicholas.
You can rent anything, but this isn't just any old boat. It's a time boat.
What's a time boat? Asked Andrea.
A time boat is a boat that travels through time, said Mr. Docker. Mrs. Yonkers and I invented a time machine, with the help of Dr. Nicholas, of course.
Are we going to travel through time? Asked Alexia.
Yes, said Dr. Nicholas. I figured the best way for you children to learn history would be to go there and see it for yourself.
Yay! We all shouted. Traveling through time is the coolest. I saw a movie once about a guy who traveled back in time. When he got there, he killed his mother by accident, so he was never born. That movie was weird.
Wait a minute, said Michael. Why do we need a boat? Why didn't you just build a time machine out of a phone booth or a car?
Because the whole class can't fit inside a phone booth or a car, said Mrs. Yonkers.
Hop in,
said Dr. Nicholas. We all climbed into the time boat. I sat in front with the guys and Alexia. Andrea and Emily sat in the back.
Where are we going?
Asked Neil the nude kid.
You'll be traveling back to the year 1776,
said Dr. Nicholas. She was fiddling with a bunch of knobs on the control. Oh! On the control panel of the time boat. Check this out. So this is a picture of all of the kids in the class. This is a big boat, isn't it, Rose?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think we've ever paid much attention to this picture before. And there are controls and knobs and it looks like a big light, just sort of like a control panel in the front of the boat. And Dr. Nicholas is outside the boat.
It looks like there could be a motor on it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And there's like a flag coming out of it.
A flag coming out of it?
Yeah.
I don't see the flag. In the front?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
That little flag thing.
It's a little something up there. That's the truth.
And then the teachers with the cheese on her head.
Yeah, who is that teacher? There's a teacher with cheese head.
I think that
This is what happens if you don't prepare for a video.
Mrs. Something with the cheese head. Absolutely.
Are you coming with us?
Asked Ryan.
Oh, no, said Dr. Nicholas. There's no room for grown-ups in the time boat.
Do we need to paddle or anything? Asked Michael.
Nope, just hold on tight.
Aye, aye, Captain, I said. It was exciting. The closest I ever came to traveling through time was when my family went to a restaurant called Medieval Times. They had these guys on horses charging at each other with spears while we ate chicken. That place was weird.
I'm scared,
said Emily, who's scared of everything.
Don't be afraid, said Dr. Nicholas. You have nothing to fear but fear itself.
What does that mean? Beats me, said Ryan.
On your mark, yelled all the grown-ups. Get set, go!
Suddenly the lights went out. It was so dark I couldn't see my own hand in front of my face. Then there was a buzzing sound and the time boat began to rumble and shake. There was electricity in the air. Well, not really. If there was electricity in the air, we would all die.
Help!
Yelled all the girls. Everybody was freaking out. We were going back in time. I held onto the side of the boat. There were flashing yellow lights and strange noises. It went on for a long time, and then suddenly everything stopped. A spotlight fell on a lady who was sitting on a chair next to the time boat. She was dressed in old-time clothes, and she was sewing stars on a flag. She looked a lot like our librarian, Mrs. Rupee.
Who are you?
Asked Andrea. I'm Betsy Ross, the lady replied.
Wow,
I said. My mom loves your song, Stop in the Name of Love. That's Diana Ross, dumbhead, said Ryan. You look a lot like Mrs. Rupee, said Neil. Never heard of her, said the lady who called herself Betsy Ross.
What are you doing?
Asked Emily. What does it look like? Betsy Ross said. I'm making an American flag. Why don't you just go to a store and buy a flag? I asked her.
there weren't stores back then.
Well, I think there were stores, but guess what there weren't? American flags. There were no American flags back then. Well, they don't sell American flags in stores here in 1776, Betsy Ross told us. I'm making the first one. You see, we colonists are sick and tired of British rule, so we're starting a revolution.
Oh.
Something just clicked.
Uh-huh.
What just clicked?
Click from a Hamilton song.
Oh, a Hamilton song. Oh, yeah. There you go.
Because one of the songs says 1776 in New York City.
Oh, that's it. Yeah, 1776. Yep.
He met Aaron Burr in 1776.
Holy moly, I didn't know that. So Betsy Ross told us all about the Revolutionary War, but suddenly, while she was talking, the lights went out. The time boat started shaking and rumbling. There were bright lights flashing. Everybody was freaking out again. And then the lights went back on. We were back in the science room with Dr. Nicholas and Mrs. Yonkers. That was cool, I said. We got to see Diana Ross, live and in person. It was Betsy Ross. It was almost like a ride in an amusement park, said Neil. Do you think we really traveled through time? Asked Ryan. I don't know, said Michael. That lady seemed pretty real. Can we do it again? Asked Andrea. Sure, said Dr. Nicholas as she went over to the control panel. This time you're going back to the year 1920. Dr. Nicholas fiddled with the knobs. The lights went out, the time boat started shaking, and the next thing we knew there was a guy standing next to us. He looked a lot like Mr. Docker, and he was holding a bowl of peanuts. Who are you? We asked. My name is George Washington Carver, he replied. I'm an inventor. You look a lot like Mr. Docker, I told him, with a wig. Never heard of him, the guy said. I was born a slave, but I grew up to become one of the most famous scientists in the world. I took peanuts and made them into peanut butter, paper, ink, oils, and over 300 other products. Wow, we all said, which is Mom, upside down. George Washington Carver told us all about peanuts and even let us eat some. That guy was nutty for peanuts. Then the lights started flashing again. The time boat started shaking, and we were back in the science room. After that, we got to go back in time to meet Susan B. Anthony, who looked a lot like Miss Small, our gym teacher, Thomas Edison, who looked a lot like Mr. Mackey, our reading specialist, and Grandma Moses, who looked a lot like Dr. Nicholas. Oh, look at this. And see, there are pictures of, I think this is Susan B. Anthony, and she has a vote sign she's holding, and Thomas Edison, or Mr. Mackey, or whoever that is, holding a light bulb that is glowing. It was the greatest day of my life. You should have been there. That was cool, we all said when the lights went back on. I'm glad you enjoyed the time boat, Dr. Nicholas told us. But you'll have to get out now and let the other classes take their turns. We were about to climb out of the time boat when the weirdest thing in the history of the world happened. Somebody screamed. Well, that's not the weird part, because people scream all the time. The weird part was what happened next. It was Andrea. What's the matter? We all asked. Emily's not here, shouted Andrea. She was sitting right next to me in the time boat. Where's Emily? Where's Emily? Where's Emily? Where's Emily? In case you were wondering, everybody was shouting, where's Emily? Emily was gone. Chapter 10, an emergency. Emily, Emily, Emily. I'm sure she's around here somewhere, said Dr. Nicholas. We looked under all the desks in the science room for Emily, but we couldn't find her anywhere. Maybe she got scared by all the lights and noise, I said. She probably ran away. She does that all the time. With all the shaking, Ryan said, she might have fallen out of the time boat. They should really put seatbelts on time boats, I suggested. If Emily fell out of the time boat, said Alexia, she could be in another time. I think we may have left her back in 1776 with Betsy Ross, shouted Andrea. That was the last time I saw her. She'll be stuck in 1776 forever! Andrea started crying. The grown-ups tried to calm her down, but it was no use. Andrea was freaking out. There, said Dr. Nicholas. Oh wait, look, it's a picture of all of the children's freaking out. They are bugging out and screaming, looking for Emily. Oh, and also, Dr. Nicholas is screaming. There, said Dr. Nicholas as she patted Andrea on the back. People always say there, and pat you on the back when they want you to calm down. They don't say there. It has to be there. What is up with that? Did you say that to me earlier today, Rose?
Yes.
You said there. What's What's up with that? Why should I feel better just because somebody said the word there twice and patted me on the back? Emily's my best friend, Andrea wailed. Now she's stuck in 1776 for the rest of her life. I'll never see her again. I don't even like Emily, but I was getting a little choked up myself. She might get shot by British soldiers, said Ryan. Or she might help George Washington cross the Delaware, said Neil the nude kid. That's when I got a genius idea. Hey, I said, why don't we just get back in the time boat, go back to 1776, and look for Emily? That's a great idea. Yeah, that's a great idea, AJ, said Dr. Nicholas. No wonder I'm in the gifted and talented program. We were climbing back into the time boat when you'll never believe who walked into the science room. I'm not going to tell you. Okay, I'll tell you. It was Emily! Emily! We all screamed. Everybody ran over to Emily and started hugging her.
What's the big deal?
Emily said.
Why is everybody shouting and yelling?
Where were you? Andrea asked. We were so worried. We thought we left you in 1776 and you'd be stuck there for the rest of your life.
I wasn't in 1776.
Emily explained.
I was in the bathroom.
Oh. Why didn't you just wait until we got out of the time boat? Andrea asked her.
It was an emergency.
Emily whispered.
I had a number 2.
But why did you go to the bathroom? I asked. We have plenty of pencils right here. Emily's weird. The underside of a horse's hoof is called a frog. This has nothing to do with the story, but I thought you might like to know. Oh, and here there's a picture of Emily entering the classroom again, and she seems like she feels a little like she doesn't really know what to do, and the other kids are very happy to see her, and everyone seems a little surprised. Okay, here we go. Chapter 11, Goodbye. The next day, we had to take the history test again. Everybody was nervous. If we scored high, our school would stay open, but if we scored low, our school would shut down, and we would have to go to Dirk School on the other side of town. We were all pins and needles. Well, not really. If we were sitting on chairs. Why would anybody want to sit on pins and needles? That would hurt. Before the test, we had to go to the all-purpose room. Mr. Klutz, Mr. Docker, Mrs. Yonkers, and some of the other teachers were up on the stage, but not Dr. Nicholas. Where's Dr. Nicholas? Whispered Michael. Where's Dr. Nicholas? Whispered Andrea.
Where's Dr. Nicholas?
Whispered Andrea. In case you were wondering, everybody was whispering, where's Dr. Nicholas? Mr. Klutz made the shut up peace sign with his fingers, and we all stopped whispering to each other. He wasn't smiling like he usually is. He looked really sad. Oh yeah, look at him. He's up on the stage making a little peace sign. There are a couple of teachers who have, it looks like Mr. Docker and I don't think it's Mrs. Rupee. I am forgetting the other teacher's name. Okay, here we go. I just wanted to let you students know I just fired Dr. Nicholas, he said. What? Everybody gasped. We liked Dr. Nicholas. This was the worst thing to happen since TV turnoff week. Why did you fire Dr. Nicholas? We all shouted. I found out she was wasting valuable classroom time to teach you about silly things, like the history of Barbie dolls and the history of toilet bowls, said Mr. Klutz. As a result, you are not prepared for the big test, and you may very well fail it. Elementary school may close its doors forever. Everybody was moaning, sobbing, and wiping their eyes with tissues. I just wanted you to know it has been a pleasure being your principal, said Mr. Klutz, and I just wanted to say goodbye. It was really sad. We walked back to our classroom without saying a word. Mr. Granite passed out the test papers and asked us if we had our number 2 pencils. Nobody even giggled or cracked a joke about number 2. When I say go, turn over your test papers, said Mr. Granite. Ready, set, go. I turned over my test paper and looked at the first few questions. 1. Who invented Barbie? 2. What did Tom Crapper do? Well, you probably know what happened after that. We did great on the test. We scored so high that Mr. Klutz threw us a big party. And you know what I had to eat at the party? I'm not going to tell you. Okay, I'll tell you. No, it wasn't cake. You thought I was going to say a piece of cake, didn't you? But there was no cake at all. Why is everybody always talking about cake? We had cookies, and Jell-O and pie at the party. I ate so much I thought I was gonna throw up. It was the greatest day of my life. Maybe Dr. Nicholas will get hired again to teach us more history. Maybe a meteor will destroy the Earth and we won't have to take tests anymore. Maybe they'll come up with a different number for pencils. Maybe the Pilgrims will go to Home Depot. Maybe Chuck Norris will run for president. Everything's possible these days. Maybe we'll go scuba diving in the all-purpose room. Maybe Dr. Nicholas will get off Oprah. Maybe the dinosaurs will return and we can ride them to school. Maybe we'll find out who invented toilet paper. Maybe we'll get another ride in the time boat. Maybe we'll get to try some paper made out of peanuts. Maybe Emily will get lost in time for real. Maybe we'll learn how to say the word crapper without giggling. Maybe people will stop talking about cake all the time, but it won't be easy. And that was Dr. Nicholas is Ridiculous. Woo! My Weirder School Book 8 by Tom Gutman and pictures by Jim I think it's Paylot or Palo. My apologies to Jim if I'm mispronouncing your name. But what a great book. Great pictures, great story. Thanks for hanging out with us here at Seriously Read a Book. My name is John. You want to say bye, Rose?
Bye.
Bye. And seriously, y'all, read a book. Oh, by the way, if you like this video, please like and subscribe. Adios. Not earlier today, but last night. So we've been having some sickness.